Good evening. You have every right to feel scared and threatened in Britain. On Saturday night, 10 people were allegedly stabbed by a knifeman. Police are investigating whether the incident is connected to a separate stabbing of a 14-year-old boy and a man threatening people with a knife in a barber shop. Less than a week ago, this happened. A man was killed on a residential road in London. 2 others were attacked. These cases are yet to go through the court process, and the suspects obviously must be treated as innocent unless the prosecution proves otherwise. They will have the opportunity to put their case to court. I'm not saying that anyone is definitely guilty, but what I am saying is that these incidents themselves justify people feeling scared. But looking more widely, a couple of weeks ago, this happened. A jihadi called Jihad tried to slaughter Jews at a synagogue in Manchester. It feels like every single day there's a case of an asylum seeker raping someone or sexually abusing someone. Ethiopian child sex offender Hadush Kabatu was accidentally released and had to be paid to leave. An Afghan who was actually called Rapeula Ahmadzi raped a vulnerable schoolgirl in a park in Scotland. Another one raped a schoolgirl in Falkirk. And there was a conviction last week in Oxford. A couple of weeks ago, a Sudanese man pleaded guilty to trying to kidnap a 17-year-old girl. Last week, another Sudanese asylum seeker was found guilty of stabbing a hotel worker to death with a screwdriver. A gym instructor who's called himself the Anglo-Jihadi has today been found guilty of planning a bomb and chemical attack on a major shopping centre. There's also another case of the illegal migrant who threatened to kill Nigel Farage. He's in prison using an illegal phone and he'll probably be back out and about within 18 months. Then there's the case of the homeless Kurdish migrant who shoved a stranger onto the tube tracks, all because he thought the guy gave him a dirty look. You might just walk down the road and see someone like this. And a warning, by the way, this is very graphic, but sadly, this is what you might just see out on our streets today. Yeah, just set himself on fire and went up the Edgware Road. Or, of course, you might go to the shops and you might see this.
Man said, yo, that, man's grabbing everything today, you know.
Yeah, shoplifters, and you're too afraid to step in, just in case they stab you to death. We are now the rape capital of Europe. The UK recorded the highest figure of rapes on the continent last year. We've got the constant threat of radical Islamism, bollards everywhere, airport-style security, armed police at Christmas markets. And it's not just in busy city centres, they're out in places like leafy Surrey, just in case the jihadis decide to come to a market town for Christmas. And that is all before we've got to the low-level crime that we see happening every day. Your town or city stinking of cannabis, graffiti everywhere, burglaries, people don't even bother to report because they feel like the police won't bother to attend. I'm sick of people saying that this is all scaremongering or, oh, we're being really dramatic. The people who laugh at you for worrying about knife crime are the same people who have said that stop and search is racist. The people who laugh at you for worrying about some illegal immigrants killing and raping people are the same people who go to the refugees' welcome marches. The people who call you Islamophobic for worrying about jihadis or I don't know, the Pakistani rape gangs are the same people who have said there's nothing wrong with mass immigration from Muslim countries. The people who say that you're racist for pointing out Afghans are about 20 times more likely to commit a sex crime, or that Pakistanis and Indians fought each other in Leicester, or that we've got 85 Sharia courts, or that we have rampant anti-Semitism on pro-Palestine marches, are the same people who tell us that diversity is our greatest strength. And I tell you what, I am sick of MPs telling us that everything is OK. Or it's all isolated incidents, we just need to remain vigilant. They have just put up a new fence around the Houses of Parliament. Look at that. The Prime Minister, the Mayor of London, the Home Secretary, they have 24-hour armed security. We don't, do we? We don't. Politicians and people on the left are gaslighting you by saying that Britain, it's the safest it's ever been. Well, it doesn't look like it. and it doesn't feel like it. And I'm telling you that every single day I sit here and I have to decide which horrific, violent, often sexual crimes to tell you about because I can't fit them all into a single show. We shouldn't have to live like this. So I thought
your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called custom removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
Also, my panel, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform Party member, former chairman of the Tory Party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, are you sick and tired of being told that actually everything's OK, it's the safest it's ever been to live in Britain? And
I mean, a lot of politicians this week have been trotting out the fact that the crime, knife crime and violent crime has gone down. It's simply not true. I just don't believe it. And I know it's not true, certainly in London, because this year there were 16,344 knife crimes. Last year there were 15,000. So there's been a rise. So they're lying to us about it. And all the catalogue of horror that you just laid in front of us there is terrifying. You know, Britain is frozen with fear now. You know, we saw what happened this weekend on that train, a place where you're a sitting target for lunatics. You know, there's no escape. You can't get off. There's no escape, no hiding place. But you know, we are living in a country now where we're terrified by the rise of Islamism on our streets. We're terrified by anti-Semitism. We're importing killers and rapists and paedophiles, and we're saying it's for our benefit. We're importing terrorists into this country, and people are terrified to talk about the fear of that because, as you just said, they're going to be branded racist, and it's got to stop. And it's if we protest about when we see people protesting about immigration. They are labelled wholesale racist. It's not fair and it's not right.
There are people, I mean, I see it on social media in the way, by the way, pretty much every example that I just rattled off there, pretty much everyone is like from the last 2 weeks. And there's, yes. I mean, the ginger jihadi was today got found guilty, you know, plotting a big bomb attack, etc. You know, this seems to be happening every single day, and yet we're being gaslit and told, oh, you know, actually, it's the safest it's ever been, Britain.
So look, when it comes to crime, actually, these statistics we get hit with, saying it's going up or it's going down, I really think are irrelevant. I think they're irrelevant, first of all, because no one believes them. And Carol talks about actual knife crime going up in London, despite us being told it's going down. But actually, crime and living in this country as a free citizen is all about your own personal perception. Do you feel safe walking down the street? If there's some statistic that crime may be falling in Surrey, but you live in central London or you live in Greater Manchester, the crime is about perception. And we used to live in a country where people generally felt safe in their neighbourhood. More often than not, they knew their neighbours. And what we've seen with this rapid change in society, with this, things like migrant hotels popping up in our midst, with groups of people who we don't know, maybe the fear of them is irrational, but we are all still living in fear, and that makes Britain a much, much worse country for us all to live in than it was a handful of years ago.
I will just say this now. I think the fear is entirely rational, but I get the point that you're making. Benjamin, I mean, look, it's not just. I'm not simply referring to recent alleged incidents here. I'm speaking generally now. You know, when people get on things like the London Underground or trains generally, or you're in busy areas like you're going to a Christmas market or things like that, people now, I think, are significantly more fearful than they used to be before. So are they wrong for feeling that way?
Well, they may be more fearful, but I think that is because we now have a lot of people, a lot of opportunists who want to whip up fear and fear-monger. If you actually look at the evidence, take London, for example. The last year has had the lowest homicide record in London on record. London now has one of the lowest violent crime rates of any major city in the world. Violent crime has been falling in Britain since the 1990s. Crime in this country that is similar to the horrendous one we witnessed at the weekend has been falling, and yet people are more scared. And what we saw in recent days was people trying to whip up fear and anger and division, and that does nothing for public safety.
You're talking tosh. We've seen film after film after video on social media.
That's the whole point.
Well, those people were being stabbed, killed, murdered, attacked, whatever. That is real, and it's happening on our streets.
But the question... Carol's speaking generally there, obviously, not about this.
Of course. No, but I mean, let's talk about what happened on Saturday.
No, well, it's an active case, Carol. I've got to be honest.
I know it is. No, I'm not going to talk about the case. I'm going to say that 4 million people take train journeys every day. More people take tube journeys every day, and now they're going to be terrified to get on a train.
And let's put some facts in here instead of your whipping up fear.
Inspire
how many
people?
There are 27 per 1 million train journeys in this country. There are 27 crimes. Now, that won't be any comfort to the people affected by 27 crimes, but some perspective is really important. And I think it is dangerous that people now have the currency of fear and hate and division, and that is scaring people.
Have you been mugged?
Yes.
I was mugged a couple of years ago.
Yes,
someone threatened me on the South Bank. I've lived in London for 15 years.
Oh, but mugging's all right.
No, but I would say that if I lived in New York, or if I lived in Glasgow, or if I lived in Paris, I suspect it would be just as, if not more likely.
I think the point is lots of people do live in Glasgow, so, you know, to say crime's falling in London is irrelevant to the vast majority of the British population.
But it's also falling in Britain.
But I go back to this point, is we live in a country where people don't feel safe on the streets, people don't feel safe to go to the local shops. As Carol says, people will now feel unsafe on public transport because of reported incidents. That is not right, and it's something quite new. It hasn't happened.
But it's not new.
It hasn't happened. No,
it's not new. The feeling of falling. What's new is profiting from scaring people, and that is thanks to social media.
What is new is we're importing tens of thousands of people from different cultures into this country who in their country might be okay to rape kids and to kill women and all the rest of it. It's not what happens here, and yet it is happening on our streets.
The threat to Britain...
That is real.
The threat to Britain is not hard-working people coming here to build lives. It is race-baiting white people. Race-baiting white people who want to stir fear for profit online.
So you think that the bigger danger to Britain, instead of Pakistani paedophiles who've been parts of the rape gangs, instead of people who've been, you know, the son of Libyan asylum seekers who blew himself up in Manchester Arena, instead of all the Sudanese bloke who stabbed a woman to death in the neck, you think that the bigger threat and fear for Britain
is people talking about it.
Right-wing people on X.
The problem isn't, I'm not saying it's worse than the people who commit the crimes.
Oh, right.
What is worse is the people that try to generalise that millions of decent, hard-working people that come here to try and fearmonger them. Because what that does, that means that when people leave their houses or go on trains or get public transport, they're creating an unnecessary level of fear. They are making them fear their Asian and their Muslim neighbours, and that is wrong.
I don't think it is necessary. And what people actually want, if you go out and talk to the British people or you read in polling that they do, people want real punishment for people who commit crimes. I think we've moved away from that. We don't have anywhere near enough prison places. We're letting people out a third of the way through their sentence. Well, it was half of the way through the sentence during the Conservative government. It is now a third under Labour. We need to get really serious. We need to say to people, if you commit 3 major crimes, you'll get life imprisonment. And if there isn't room in British prisons, send them abroad to foreign countries to serve their sentence in foreign countries. People want a hostile environment to criminals where if they think they phone the police, they report a crime, the person is found guilty, they will be punished and it will be unpleasant. That should be the price of committing a crime in the UK.
Patrick touched on it before. You talked about stop and search. And we've always banished stop and search in this country. Why? Because the left would object and say it's because
there's a Conservative government that stopped stop and search, Carol. It was Theresa May as Home Secretary.
And the left too.
It was a Conservative government.
Does not
a Labour government.
But this is exactly what's got to happen now. It doesn't matter what colour your skin is. If someone suspects you, the cops suspect you, they should be able to search you. End of story.
And the number of knife crimes in the capital, at least, has fallen notably since then.
No, it's not.
When you've got,
I'm sorry, wrong.
There have been 70 knife crime murders in the last year. That is less than under Boris Johnson.
Business statistics says knife crime in London in 2025, 16,344. Last year, 15,000.
The number of violent crimes and the number of murders are down, aren't they?
So, no,
you understand
what
it is down. You want to terrify people in their homes.
They are terrified. The 16,000 people stabbed would be terrified.
Yeah. But it's the low-level crime. It's the smoking of cannabis. It's the shoplifting. We have to have a zero-tolerance approach to criminality in the UK.
I'm also just going to say, for the sake of clarity on this, over the past decade, London has experienced a significant rise in police-recorded knife crime offences. The number of crimes rose approximately 16,344 in the year ending to March 2025. Exactly, compared to 9,752 in 2015.
Exactly.
2016. So I'm very sorry, but it is getting more dangerous.
And the number of homicides is down to
just wounding
to the lowest
ever.